At 7:12 on a Tuesday morning, I woke up to the sound of metal slamming against my front door. Not knocking, not construction, metal. The kind of violent banging that instantly make your chest tighten before your brain even catches up. I sat up in bed confused, still half asleep. My phone was on the nightstand beside me, charging. I checked the screen. 3 missed calls. Unknown number. Then another bang shook the entire downstairs. "Open up," a man yelled. I stumbled toward the bedroom window and pulled the blind apart. That's when my stomach dropped. There were 2 trucks parked outside my house. One HOA pickup, one private clean-out company. And standing in the middle of my front yard, like she owned the neighborhood, was Cynthia Holloway, our HOA president. 60-something years old, bright pink blazer, perfect blonde bob haircut, and a smile on her face. A smile, while strangers carried yellow eviction tags toward MY front porch. At first, I honestly thought this had to be some kind of mistake. I grabbed a hoodie, ran downstairs barefoot, and yanked the front door open. The second I stepped outside, every worker froze. One guy literally dropped his clipboard. Cynthia's smile disappeared so fast, it looked painful. For 3 full seconds, nobody said a word. Then Cynthia blinked twice and said, "What you doing here?" "Still here." "What am I doing here?" I repeated, "I live here." One of the clean-out workers slowly looked from me to Cynthia. "She said the property was abandoned," he muttered. My heart started pounding. Abandoned? I looked past them and realized they'd already placed bright orange notices across my garage. Property subject to community repossession. Repossession. By an HOA. That's when I realized this wasn't confusion. This was planned. Cynthia crossed her arms. "Well, Mr. Walker," she said coldly, "according to our records, this property has been vacant for over 4 months. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain genuinely couldn't process what she had just said. I was literally mowing my lawn 3 days ago. "You were seen leaving repeatedly," she snapped. "For work. You stopped attending HOA meetings." "I missed 2 meetings." "You failed to respond to notices." "I never got notices." The neighbors had started gathering by then. People stood quietly on sidewalks holding coffee mugs, pretending not to stare. But they were staring, because nobody had ever seen anything like this before. Cynthia opened a thick folder dramatically. "We sent 6 certified letters. I didn't receive a single one. They were returned unopened. Then maybe they were sent to the wrong address." That's when one older neighbor suddenly spoke up. Actually, everyone turned. It was Mr. Hernandez from across the street. 70 years old. Quiet guy. Retired mail carrier. "I saw someone taking mail out of your box a few times," he said carefully. The entire street went silent. Cynthia's face tightened. "What?" I asked. Mr. Hernandez pointed directly at Cynthia. You could feel the tension shift. Cynthia immediately laughed. "That is ridiculous." But nobody else laughed, because suddenly little things started clicking into place. The missing packages. The notices I never received. The weird finds appearing online without paperwork. Even my neighbor Rachel slowly lowered her coffee cup. "Wait," she whispered. "Didn't you also tell people Daniel moved to Arizona?" Cynthia snapped toward her. "That was information provided to us." "By who?" I asked. She didn't answer. One of the clean-out workers cleared his throat. "Ma'am, if the homeowner is standing here, we probably shouldn't continue." Cynthia's jaw clenched. "You were hired to perform a contracted removal service." "Yeah," the worker said nervously, "for an abandoned property." He pointed at me. "That man's wearing pajamas." A few neighbors tried not to laugh. Cynthia looked furious. I could tell she was losing control of the situation, and people like Cynthia never handled humiliation well. She stepped closer to me. "So you think this is funny?" "No," I said quietly. "I think it's criminal." Her face changed instantly. That little fake HOA smile vanished. "You have been a disruption to this community since the day you arrived." There it was. The real reason. Not paperwork. Not violations. Me. Because I refused to kiss the HOA board's feet. Because I challenged illegal fines. Because I told neighbors they had rights. Because 6 months earlier, I stopped Cynthia from forcing an elderly widow to repaint her house during cancer treatment. Ever since then, She hated me. And now she'd gone nuclear. I'm calling the police, I said. Cynthia smiled again. Please do. That confidence hit me immediately. Too confident. Like she thought she had everything covered. And honestly, for the first time that morning, I got scared. Because people don't attempt something this insane unless they believe they can get away with it. I called 911. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled into the neighborhood. And somehow, things got worse. Because the second Officer Reynolds stepped out of his cruiser, Cynthia walked toward him, smiling like they were old friends. My stomach sank. No, please no. She shook his hand. He nodded while listening. Then both of them turned and looked directly at me. Officer Reynolds approached slowly. Sir, he said carefully, the HOA claims this property has been legally classified as abandoned pending repossession review. I stared at him in disbelief. You cannot possibly be serious. Do you have proof of residency? I almost laughed again. Proof? I pointed at the house. My clothes are upstairs. My food is inside. My truck is in the driveway. Sir, I still need identification. I pulled out my wallet. The officer checked my license. Then his expression changed. He looked from the ID to the house number. Then back at Cynthia. A long pause followed. You said this man moved out months ago? He asked her. Yes. Officer Reynolds frowned. Then why was his driver's license renewed to this address 3 weeks ago? The entire street went dead silent. Cynthia froze. And for the first time all morning, she looked nervous. But then she said something that made every neighbor's jaw drop. He probably committed fraud. Even the second officer looked stunned. I just stared at her. This woman was so desperate to win. She was accusing me of faking my own address while standing inside my own property. Officer Reynolds slowly closed my wallet. Then he looked at Cynthia. Ma'am, he said carefully, I think we need to step aside and discuss exactly how this situation started. And that's when Cynthia made the biggest mistake of her life. Because she panicked. And panicked people talk too much. The second Officer Reynolds pulled Cynthia aside. I knew something had changed. 10 minutes earlier, she was acting like she owned the entire neighborhood. Now, she looked nervous. Really nervous. Officer Reynolds held one of the papers from her folder. Ma'am, he said calmly, this report claims the utilities inside this house were disconnected. Cynthia crossed her arms. That's what we were told. I pointed toward my upstairs window. My AC has been running all morning. A few neighbors laughed quietly. Cynthia immediately snapped toward them. This isn't a joke. No, I said coldly. It's fraud. The entire street went silent. Officer Reynolds looked at Cynthia again. Did anyone from the HOA physically inspect the inside of this property? That question hit her hard. I saw it instantly. That tiny hesitation. And suddenly my stomach dropped. Because I remembered things. Small things. Drawers slightly open. Packages missing. My garage side door unlocked one night. At the time, I thought I was imagining it. Now I wasn't so sure. Cynthia cleared her throat. Our maintenance department performed a wellness inspection. I repeated. Officer Reynolds narrowed his eyes. Do you have signed permission from the homeowner? Silence. That was all the answer we needed. The neighbors immediately started whispering. Rachel from next door looked horrified. Wait, you people entered his house. It was standard HOA procedure, Cynthia snapped. No, it wasn't, Officer Reynolds said firmly. That's when Mr. Hernandez slowly walked across the street, holding something in his hand. An envelope. I think this belongs to you, he told me. I looked down. It was one of my missing certified letters. Still sealed. But what made my blood run cold was the sticker on the front. Mail forward request active. Arizona. My head slowly lifted. What is this? I asked. Nobody answered. Officer Reynolds carefully took the envelope from my hand. Then he looked directly at Cynthia. Did someone from your HOA file a forwarding request for this homeowner's mail? Cynthia's face went pale. And right there, everyone knew. The missing notices. The fake abandonment claim. The repossession paperwork. This wasn't a mistake. They were trying to take my house. One of the clean-out workers immediately backed away. Ma'am, you told us the owner disappeared months ago. I believed he had. Cynthia yelled. While his truck was parked outside every night. Rachel shouted. People started recording openly now. Phones everywhere. Cynthia looked around and realized she'd lost the neighborhood. Completely. Officer Reynolds handed me back my ID. "Sir, nobody is touching this property today." Then he turned towards Cynthia. "And I strongly suggest you stop speaking until this situation is investigated further." That word hit hard. Investigated. Cynthia's confidence disappeared instantly. For the first time since I moved there, she looked scared. The clean-out company packed up within minutes. Neighbors stayed outside, talking for almost an hour. Nobody defended her. Not one person. 3 days later, the HOA held an emergency board meeting. Cynthia resigned before it even started. So did her son. And 6 months later, I sat in court while investigators revealed something even worse. I wasn't the only homeowner they targeted. Cynthia had been using fake abandonment claims against multiple properties owned by elderly residents who traveled often or lived alone. But I ruined the plan for one simple reason. I was home, sleeping upstairs. When they came to take my house,